What is good, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. We have a good video today. I'm really excited to make this video because I really want to dive more deep into alchemy. I want to dive more deep into the laws of the universe, the principles, and how they relate to you getting what you want, your manifestations. What cycle are you in life? And today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite laws of the universe. First, I want to let you guys know that this book, The Kabbalion, is one of my favorite books. And if you do not have this book, I definitely recommend you getting this book. I recommend you really learning a lot about these principles. And if you don't want to do that, don't worry. We're going to go through all of them at some point. But today we're going to be taking a look at law number 5, which is the law of rhythm. We're going to be talking about what this law is, how it seems to show up in your life with the current cycle you may be in. And then we're going to see how to utilize this law to understand and how to get what it is that you want out of life. So let's get started, you guys. So this principle is the 5th principle of the Hermetic philosophies. Like I said, the laws of the universe, it's one of my favorites. And in this law, it states that everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All tides rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left, and rhythm compensates. Everything there is manifests a measured motion, a to and from movement, a flow and inflow, a swing forward and backward, a pendulum-like movement, like ebb and flow. A high tide and low tide between the two poles manifest on the physical, mental, or spiritual planes. So I know I've talked about this kind of before, touching on the law of polarity. They are very similar in nature. So I will link the video where I kind of discussed a little on the law of polarity. But one of my favorite things about the law of rhythm is it's probably one of the most visible laws that you can see, and you can see how it plays out in your life and where you are in your current cycle of life as it relates to what you are believing and what state you are holding in your reality. What this means is if all possible realities exist and you're choosing one that is favorable to you, the one where, let's just say for instance, you are a millionaire, then you automatically have a lifeline or a reality there that is the opposite direction, where you are poor, homeless, have no money, all that. It automatically creates that one. And when you set out to go forth on becoming that millionaire or living a life full of abundance, that other reality is in play at the same time, and you can come and jump back and forth to each reality by your attitudes, your reaction to outer circumstances, that sort of thing. All right, I hope this is making sense. All right, stay with me. We're going to get into it, and it's going to become abundantly clear where you are in your life and how to utilize this law. So we're going to talk about how it shows up in your life and what cycle you may be on, and how to kind of switch to understand where your energy needs to be. I'm going to use myself as an example. So when I was building my business, the business that I no longer have, I was doing a lot of different metrics to get the success that I was getting, and I had a end goal of the person that I wanted to become. So I knew who I had to be to become. I had to get disciplined. I had to show up every day. I had to do so many things that I decided was going to work for me. Now, this is by your will. Whatever this is for you, it is done by your will, by whatever you feel that you need to do to get to that level, to become that person who has that successful business. Okay, so I was doing what I needed to do to get to that level, and the pendulum or the rhythm swinging up is getting me to a certain level of success. And when you reach that pinnacle of that success for that version of you, if you do not integrate and learn how to move to a higher version of yourself, this is when you will start to see the success start dwindling or start problems come into play, because it only goes up to a certain amount and then you have to transform into a new being. Now, this is why you may see people say that insanity is the result of you doing the same thing and expecting a different result when you are doing what it is that you set out to do. And when those things are no longer working and you are not adjusting, you are swinging that pendulum, the law of polarity or the law of rhythm. You are moving back to the state, back to the other side. So it is imperative that you understand this, you guys, because I feel like we always have a version of ourselves that we see, and then when we are heading on to that version and we become that version of ourselves and we stay there for a while, then we are wanting and desiring to move up in our experience in life. When things start to show us that this version no longer works for ourselves and we are not integrating and we are not moving in that direction, then that's when we start to see that the things start to revert back. Okay, I hope this is making sense. So in my last video, I talked about seeking first the kingdom within you, which is your personal power. I hope you watch that video because it will make more sense what I'm talking about. So when you seek first the kingdom within, knowing that you are the operant power and knowing that you, the personal power, that you already possess that, when you seek that first, then all things will be added unto you. So it is important that you always get back to a state of knowing your personal power. And how do you do that? How do you utilize this law? How do you understand this law? So we're going to take a look at my favorite scale, the scale of consciousness by Dr. David R. Hawkins. I talked about this a lot in my first video, and I do want to cover it along with this law because I feel like it's going to help you understand a little bit more of the process and where you may be on this scale and how it relates to you in terms of the results that you are seeing in your life. So in this scale, we're going to pay attention to the middle of the scale. Now, this is where willingness, acceptance, and neutrality or indifference lies. The point is, this is like the pendulum. The pendulum and the law of rhythm works best when you are neutral. So this is why I always say indifference naturally gets you to where you want to be the fastest. And how do you achieve indifference? It is through your willingness to accept the current situation as is, but it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to agree with the situation that is going on in your current life, but it is to accept that that is just one version of many, and you can accept that and move along to the next version or the lifeline or the experience that you choose to seek, knowing that that other version is there as well. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how to stay in neutrality or indifference, because I know for a fact, I know that this is a little bit of a hard thing to do when you're so used to taking massive action out in the world and not acting from a place of inspired action or acting from a place of you already having your desires. So how do you get into a state of neutrality or indifference? Is you have a willingness, which willingness and acceptance are in that middle phase, that neutral ground within the law of rhythm. This is like a set point for you to continue your experience. So when you are in this set point of acceptance, willingness, and indifference, this helps to slow everything down. It helps the pendulum or the rhythm to swing back to its natural state by you remaining calm, by you realizing that if you are the operant power in your life, you guys, if you are who you truly say you are, then you know that by you being the creator, by you saying that, okay, I want to become a millionaire, or I want to be successful on YouTube, or I want to have a partner, the best marriage, whatever it is. And when you feel resistance, because resistance is going to come up when you are against a old version of yourself or trying to move into a newer version of yourself, it's going to be there, you guys. When you come up on this resistance, you want to remain neutral and realize that even if you are on a lifeline or a frame that you do not like, your life is playing out in a life that you do not like, you remain calm. And you want to know why you remain calm? You remain calm because if you are the operant power, you are the one that created that negative experience, just like you created that positive experience. So when you see this new version of yourself, seeing you being that millionaire, seeing you being successful or thriving or whatever it is that you want, there is also another lifeline there that wants to be acknowledged. And the fact that you have to realize that it has a right to exist just as much as your self that is a millionaire and is abundant. A lot of us tend to just reject that other side of us or reject that other lifeline, when all the resistance is showing you is the fact that that version wants so bad to be acknowledged. So of course things are going to come up and you're going to feel resistance because that lifeline wants to be acknowledged too. So think of it like this. Think of it as a kid or as a little annoying brother, let's just say, that's bothering you. This is how I tend to look at resistance, because resistance can only necessarily be data, you guys. I look at resistance as being data for you realizing that this is not the negative state that you're in, or even the state or the identity that you currently hold is no longer serving you. This is what resistance is trying to teach you. It's not to just always throw it away and be like, okay, like, oh, okay. No, it is showing you that this version of yourself does not serve you. These emotions do not serve you. It is really your operant power showing you that this is not your natural state. And as we know, as we talked about in my last video, that abundance, your personal power, a calm state of mind, all those things are what are natural to you. So it is natural for you to be indifferent to life circumstances, to be neutral to life circumstances, regardless if they are negative or if they are positive. It is your birthright to always be calm, because as the operant power, as God in human form, you know that there is both good and bad. It's not necessarily both good or bad. They are looked at as neutral. You get what I'm saying? So it's best, in my opinion, to have a relationship with resistance, to have a understanding with resistance. And that means to acknowledge, like, okay, I understand I'm having resistance at this moment, but what is it that I really want? Okay, so it's not necessarily about trying to change the fact that or dislike the fact that the resistance comes up. It is what it is. It is a part of experiencing life's emotions. So this scale of consciousness that we see, we are here to have a human experience, right? So you must know that you're going to experience all of these emotions at some point in your life. There is nothing that you can do to really avoid all of these emotions. It's one thing to say, yes, we want to fill our mind with positive thinking as much as we can, but getting past that acceptance state on into the love, the care, love and alignment being the highest on this scale, and then shame being the lowest on the scale, it is difficult to always stay in a high vibration of enlightenment all of the time. You're going to go back in between states at any given moment during any time of the day here. But when you are in that middle, that pendulum stays there. And that's where you are able to create the basis, the set point of your experiences moving forward. Okay, so it's hard to live down below. As you guys know, if you're experiencing shame right now, pain, guilt, it's hard for you to stay there as well. You're going to feel resistance when you are there, just like you're going to feel resistance if you're always up in these higher states of consciousness all the time. It's just not possible. But it is possible for you to be neutral to your experiences, because you guys, we are living our life on a moment-to-moment basis. And that's why when you get your manifestations, or when you get the things that you're super excited about, it makes the whole process, it makes your life worth living. It makes the whole experience here of being a human worthwhile, to know that you have been able to overcome your personal emotions, to be able to understand that you are both love and light, but you are also chaos and negativity, all that stuff as well. You are all, you are the all. The all is mental, and you're going to go through all of that at any given time. But to just say that you only love the things that are positive and amazing and exciting about yourself, but to hate the fact that you don't, that you sometimes can be negative or fall into a negative state without having that love and compassion for yourself for experiencing this. It's just an experience. It's not something that has to be with you for long periods of time. But that experience, that negative experience that you are perceiving, all it wants is for you to acknowledge it and not push it away. It's for you to say that this too I've created, that this too has a right to exist. And you don't have to agree with it, but it has a right to exist is what I'm trying to get you guys to see. Please understand what I'm saying here. Please see what I'm really saying here, you guys. If you are the all and you create one thing, you also create the other side of it. When you place meaning on the fact that because you may have had that resistance for that tiny moment or that negative spurt throughout that day, and then you feel like you've messed everything up, you cannot mess anything up, you guys. If you are God, you cannot mess anything up. It is a process. It is an experience. You getting on to the next version of yourself will always be an experience. And the moment that you accept in the fullness that life is going to have its ups and downs, its ebbs and flows, all of these things. I'm getting a scripture right now. I think it's like Ephesians or something like that, but it's that a time to mourn, a time to laugh, a time to plant, a time to pluck up which has been planted. This is why. And this is also why we say that all things work together for your good. No matter if you can't see it right now or not, all things work together. No matter if it's deemed negative, no matter if it's deemed good, all these things help you get to your end result. Okay? I feel like this is when I started to really see the change, and I was able to understand indifference and neutrality, willingness and acceptance. I was starting to understand it more, and I still feel like I've been more calm than I've ever been, especially the more that I comb through this information, the more that I understand this information. When I understand the laws of the universe, this is something that we cannot get past, you guys. Even if you're not acknowledging or being aware of these laws, they are playing out in every facet of your life. This is something that you cannot just necessarily escape, even if you are not paying attention to it. You know what I mean? So for me to be able to understand the cycles and to be able to understand these laws helps me work with it in a way that has magnified not just my manifestations, but for my experience to be more well-rounded, for me to not deny any side of myself, but to welcome both of the sides and know that I still have a choice in deciding to choose my future. I'm not pushing anything away. I'm just being. So is it really faking it until you make it to be whatever it is that you want? No, you have to start feeling that now. So Joe Dispenza, Dr. Joe Dispenza, we all love him. He says that you cannot wait to feel gratitude before you do something. So it is important that even though all these options are here, you decide to move to the state, into whatever it is that you want to be, but without trying to force that other emotion away, is what I'm trying to get you guys to see. You don't have to like force or reject or beat down so hard on that emotion, because that in itself creates more emotion towards that thing. All right, so what it is you want to start moving in that direction. Now what happens when you are waiting to experience a certain emotion? If you're waiting on an outside circumstance to help you to change your reaction, then you're going to be waiting for a long time, and you probably have not by that time built up a lot of the momentum to keep that rhythm going. But if you go ahead first and start going in that direction of that momentum or that version of yourself that you want, and making those changes, although it is uncomfortable, although you may face a little bit of resistance, when that let's say that $1 million or your breakthrough hits, you already have that momentum that you've already been doing it because you feel that you are that millionaire regardless before you had the finances. But if you wait to hit that $1 million before you start to try to catch your momentum, you're not going to get very far because you don't have the belief systems in place. And so that is why a lot of people who may win the lottery or come up on something amazing, if they don't understand this, if they always have a fear around and don't accept the fear for what it is, that is when you start to lose things. That is when you choose that other lifeline. That is when you get on that rhythm where things go the opposite, because there's always a time for amazing abundance, and then there's always time for a neutral standpoint, and there's always time for a negative if you don't decide to take further actions for you to grow and implement and move forward in your life, you guys. All right, so this is why I really like the scale of consciousness as well when I study these laws of the universe, because I really love the idea of hanging out in that middle phase, because these are the integrity factors or the behaviors that are accumulated through being in that state. So through indifference and willingness is where you gain acceptance. It's not that you are trying to automatically force a change. It's that you're being okay with where you are in your life now and having the willingness to accept that I can make the difference if I so choose to. Okay, so you guys, I hope that this video gave you a little more insight on where you could be in your life right now and where you are heading. Remember, these are all cycles, but I find it better if you have a relationship to all sides of yourself and still knowing that you have the choice to choose whatever it is that you want. But when you push away something that you've already created, if you've created that amazing version of yourself who is that millionaire, and when that resistance comes up and you start having these negative thoughts, that you immediately reject harshly that other side or that other paradigm, instead of saying, you know what, that version also has a right to exist. If I am God, that version also has a right to exist, and just say it is what it is. This is still what I choose for myself. Then I feel like it drops that resistance so much more than trying to force your way out of not thinking that negative thought. All right, so I know that you enjoyed this video, and you probably may have to watch it a few times for it to really sink in, so please do that. But if you like the way that I teach manifestation, if you love the way that I really try to bring it all together so you can see where you are in your life currently, like, share, and subscribe, because I already know that nobody's going to bring this information to you like I am. All right, so you guys, I love you. Like, share, and subscribe. Remember that imagination is on your side, and I am too. Bye.